How did a stupid wedding joke turn into a public serving of papers? Why did my husband let the whole city watch the end of our marriage? What happens when a woman like me thinks humiliation is harmless and cheating is justified? Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. My name is Isola Maren Voss. I was the bride who made a bad joke into a brand. At our wedding, I took the mic and teased my husband, Marcus, about his size. People laughed. I said it was a roast. He went quiet. Later, he asked why I did that. I said it was part of my image. Danny, my best friend, said I was brave. I said she was right. Marcus's mother sent a short text that I should apologize. I said we would talk later. I did not mean it. I worked as an event coordinator, so I lived off applause. I needed noise, eyes, and lights. Marcus built bridges and liked calm. I told everyone we balanced each other. In truth, I wanted control. When praise slowed, I found Tomas, a photographer from a job. He said I looked powerful in his lens. I said I felt alive. I called it art. I said Marcus did not understand. I was sure I was still a good wife. I said the wedding joke was harmless, and the messages with Thomas would just play. Marcus said he felt small and unsafe with me. I said he was dramatic. The morning after the wedding felt like a hangover, made of noise and glitter. Our apartment still held the smell of flowers and floor polish. My heels lay under the coffee table. The mic video from last night kept looping on my phone. I watched myself smirk. I watched Marcus's face harden. I told myself it was only stage fright in reverse. He was fine. He only needed time. I started a kettle. I set 2 mugs on the counter and pushed them close so they touched. He came in from the hallway and moved 1 mug to the far end like it had germs. He said he had not slept. I said he was too dramatic and that everyone laughed, so it could not be cruel. He asked why I said his size in front of his friends. I said it was only a roast and we were modern. I said our brand was playful. He did not answer. He only looked at the floor. I opened my camera roll and trimmed the clip so his uncomfortable face was off-screen. I added music. I told myself applause was good for marriage. I wrote a caption that said, "Love should be fun." I hit post and waited for hearts. My friend Danny sent 10 crying, laughing emojis and said the joke killed. I told her she was right. She said I should drop a reel before noon. I said I was on it. She said Marcus would come around. I said he always did. His mother, Ruth, sent a short message. She said the clip hurt to watch. She said words last longer than we think. I did not answer. I told myself older people do not get it. My sister Mila asked if I planned to apologize. I said there was nothing to fix. I said it was just a bit. She said I liked the crowd too much. I said she was jealous of my confidence. She went quiet. Marcus took a small binder from the hall table. It was thin, black, and labeled household in neat white letters. I asked what he was doing. He said he needed fresh air. I asked if he would discuss the joke like adults. He said there was nothing to say right now. I told him he was punishing me with silence. He said silence was the only safe thing he had. I rolled my eyes because I wanted to win. Inside my chest, I felt a pinch, like a bruise. I filmed a selfie in the kitchen with the bouquet behind me. I said marriage was a party and I would keep dancing. I smiled with teeth. In the corner of my eye, I saw Marcus unlock his phone, then lock it. A small banner on his screen flashed and faded before I could read it. When he reached for the door, it vibrated again. I glanced and caught a calendar strip for a second. Downtown 10:20 a.m. The red color looked new on his app. I told myself it was errands. I told myself engineers need stations and tools, and maybe stamps. I told myself nothing was about me. I followed him to the front door and asked if we could at least set a time to debrief. I said I had a busy day at the events office and wanted to present a united image. He said he did not perform images. I said he could have handled it private instead of sulking at the reception. He said there had been nothing private left for him once I said the joke into a microphone. He kept his voice low. He did not raise it. I hated that calm. It made my own voice sound sharp, like a knife scraping a plate. He turned back to the kitchen. He set his mug far away again and wiped the counter in a slow line. I thought he was being petty about cups. I told him he could at least support me at work because clients from my firm had been at the wedding. He said he would not lie. I said no one asked him to lie. I only asked him to keep energy positive. He said energy was not truth. I rolled my eyes again and said truth was subjective and vibes were real. He said he needed the hallway, then the elevator, then the street. He opened the door. I stood with the binder label bleeding into me. Household. That word felt like a bill. I put the bouquet in the sink and turned on the tap. Petals broke off and slipped into the drain like coins. I checked the reel. Views climbed. Comments said I was savage and iconic. A few said poor guy. I deleted those. I did not want to feel anything but famous. On the wall planner above the desk, I saw a red circle around Friday. I had not drawn that circle. Next to it, in small blue letters, someone had written shop, but the P had a careful loop. Marcus did careful loops. I told myself it was for groceries. I told myself he made lists when he felt small. I felt big. The bigness felt hollow, like a balloon tapping the ceiling. I texted Thomas, the photographer from last month's gala. I said I might need new headshots. He said he had seen my clip and called it fearless. He said he liked women who could take heat. I told him I handled stages daily, so heat was a Tuesday for me. He said he was free later this week to shoot on a rooftop or by the river at sunset. I felt light, like my body moved toward the lens itself. I said we could discuss time. He asked if my husband was okay with public brands. I said Marcus understood this life. Then I sent a winking emoji I should not have sent. I told myself it was networking. I told myself I used men the way men used women for 100 years. I told myself balance was justice. When Marcus came back from the elevator, he headed straight to the bedroom and stood inside the doorway. I asked if he planned to look at the comments with me, so he would see it was not that deep. He said deep was a bad word for me. I told him to stop speaking in drama. He said he needed distance to think. I said distance was childish. He said distance was dignity. He placed the binder on the dresser and took a breath that moved his shoulders. I wanted to touch those shoulders and make him stay small. I wanted the argument to go loud so I could win on volume. He did not give me volume. We moved around each other like furniture. I carried a laundry basket to the hall. He picked up his running shoes and set them by the door. I asked if he would at least attend brunch with my family. He said he would not perform a smile for my father's camera. I said my father paid for half the wedding and deserved a happy son-in-law. He said my father deserved honesty. I hated him for talking like a manual. I loved him for not dropping the world when I dropped it. I would never say that last part aloud. He stepped into the hall again. The latch made a soft sound when the door closed. I stood there and pretended I did not care about that sound. I scrolled my notifications and blocked one account that posted the word cruel with a sad face. I went into the bedroom and saw the binder still on the dresser. I slid open the top drawer to put it away and found the drawer empty, except for a small key lying alone. I closed the drawer. The key made a thin click. The click told me something was locked, somewhere but not here. I checked the hallway camera on my phone. Marcus walked down the corridor with his shoulders squared and no ring of keys in view. He did not take a bag, just the binder. I told myself he was going to buy a light bulb. I told myself he was going to buy milk. I told myself engineers liked binders, to hold skinny sheets about cables. He turned the corner. The camera feed turned still. At the events office, the open plan layout felt like a theatre with bad lighting. People rolled by in chairs and slowed down near my desk. 2 interns whispered behind a plant. One of them looked at me and then at her phone, like I could not see her eyes. I said good morning in a cheerful voice that felt like a costume. My manager, Priya, waved from her glass door and said we would have a quick word later. She smiled in a professional way. It looked like a closed door even when it was open. I opened my email and found 2 messages from a client who had attended the wedding. She said the venue was elegant and the band was great. She said she hoped I had a nice honeymoon. I answered with gratitude and a note about future collaborations. I wanted to type something about the joke, just to diffuse it, but I kept it clean. A junior coordinator came by my desk and said the floral vendor needed a headcount update. I gave it. I kept working. When I looked up, a small ring of co-workers had formed near the printer. The printer spit a sheet, made a small cough, and spit another. Someone laughed at a TikTok. Someone else said I was trending in our city hashtag. I told myself trends are good. I told myself any press is press. I told myself Marcus should be grateful I was raising our profile. I posted a photo of my ring hand over my keyboard. I wrote a caption about strong wives who can take a joke and make it gold. Comments climbed. A stranger said I had humiliated my husband. I replied with a heart and said we were playful. The stranger replied again and said he looked sad. I blocked them. I told myself boundaries matter, even for strangers. A message popped from Tomas. He said he had a rooftop slot tonight and asked if I wanted to drop by for brand vibes and light tests. I said I might have dinner with family. He said we could swing by after. He added a selfie that was casual but studied. I told him I would confirm later. I reminded myself I was married and this was art. I also reminded myself I was angry and deserved attention that did not scold me. Both thoughts were true in my mind at the same time. At 11, Priya stood at my desk and asked if we could step into HR for a quick word. She kept her tone soft. I said of course, and lifted my chin like I wore a crown. In the small HR room, a framed poster talked about respect in the workplace. Priya said there had been a few messages sent to the office Instagram about my wedding speech. She said clients sometimes conflate personal and professional images. She asked if I could consider removing the clip, or at least muting it. I said the clip was harmless and part of my brand. I said people are too sensitive. I said I empower myself and other women. She said she understood, but asked me to think about the firm's reputation. I said my personal account was my own. She said she would not tell me what to do, but she hoped I would think again. She added that one guest had written the firm to say the joke felt like bullying. I smiled and said fans and critics are both signs of reach. She closed the folder without writing anything. She said we would revisit in a week. When I came back to my desk, a spreadsheet was open on my second monitor. It had initials and dates and nothing else. I froze, then realized it was a shared family drive Marcus had access to. Maybe it had auto-opened from a link he had used on this computer long ago. I scrolled once. Rows showed initials I knew from our bank and from our landlord, and dates I did not place. There were no labels, no columns with names. The file name was only a string of numbers. I closed it fast like it was a snake. My heart beat in my throat. I laughed, alone, because laughing is my code for fear. My sister texted to ask if I was okay. She asked if I had talked to Marcus. I said he was sulking and that he would get over it. She said the clip looked harsh. I said she was being dramatic and needed to learn performance. She said she loved me, but could not defend this to people who asked. I told her I did not ask her to be my lawyer. She wrote back that I was turning friends into an audience. I did not answer. I opened my camera app and practiced a smile that showed no tremor. In the afternoon, I took a call from a vendor near the windows. My phone vibrated with a reminder labeled Meeting, Personal 4:05 p.m. I swiped it away without reading details. The time sat in my head like a pebble. I thought about the red circle on our wall planner. I told myself Marcus liked to schedule gym visits with capital letters. I told myself, downtown 10:20 a.m., had been a haircut. I told myself spreadsheets with initials were for taxes and not for me. After 3, I walked to the break area. A coworker lifted her phone to show a story where I raised my glass on the rooftop the night before. I had almost forgotten that moment. People had shouted for an encore. I had performed a safer line, and everyone had laughed. My coworker asked if Marcus was cool with it. I said he knew who he married. The coworker nodded without smiling. She said she hoped I was okay. I said I was great and that people should lighten up. She nodded again, even smaller. Tomas sent a second message with a location pin for a rooftop bar downtown. He said the light would be perfect at 7. I typed that I would try to swing by and that I might bring a friend. He sent a thumbs up. A junior designer leaned over and asked if Tomas was the same photographer from the gala. I said yes. She said he was cute. I said I did not notice. She laughed and looked at my ring, then looked away. By the printer, a pair of interns watched something on mute. I recognized my own face and a caption that said, "Bride goes for the jugular." They did not see me behind them at first. When they turned and saw me, they jumped and said they were just scrolling. I said it was fine and that I was used to attention. They said they loved my confidence. One asked if Marcus had a sense of humor. I said he did once. The intern said ouch. I said it was a joke. She nodded, but her eyes said she believed the ouch. I packed my bag at 4. As I shut down my monitor, a missed call appeared with no caller ID. It disappeared before I could hit it. I told myself spam calls always hit at the wrong time. I checked my reflection in the screen. My face looked older than this morning. I fixed my hair and told myself I was still the main character. I messaged Danny to meet me at the rooftop later. She sent fire emojis and said the city would scream. Priya called out from her door and asked if I had a minute before I left. I stepped in. She said she respected my talent and hustle. She added that some sponsors watch our staff's online presence closely. She asked if I had a plan to manage comments. I said I would moderate with a firm hand. She asked me to remember that silence can be powerful. I said silence was not my brand. She gave a small, sad smile. She said she would schedule a follow-up next week. I nodded like a queen in exile. On my way to the elevator, I glanced at the office window. The city looked like a stage set with a sky pinned above it. I thought about Marcus, his thin binder, his careful loops, his 2 mugs placed far apart. I told myself he would come to the rooftop if he loved me. I told myself I should tag him in a new clip so he would feel included. I drafted a caption in my notes that said love is tough, but laughter saves it. I felt brave and cruel at once. I pushed the cruel down, I kept the brave. At the elevator, a coworker asked if I had time for a debrief. I said tomorrow would be better. She said it could not wait. She pointed to her phone. A new series of tagged photos from the wedding popped onto my feed. In one, Marcus looked like he had swallowed a stone. In another, his best man stared at the floor as I leaned into the mic. Comments grew like weeds. A stranger wrote that I had broken the man on day 1. I told myself strangers project. I pressed the down button. The rooftop bar smelled like citrus and smoke. The sky was still pink, and the city hummed under it. Danny waved from a table near the edge and said the light loved me. She poured sparkling wine into cheap plastic flutes and said our wedding clip kept climbing. I said good. I said attention meant relevance. She said the crowd might want an encore of the joke. I said I could do a softer version. I said comedy was about timing, not apology. Tomas arrived with his camera and smiled like he knew a secret. He said the light would be perfect in 10 minutes. I said he could shoot while we socialized. He said he liked candid energy. I said I was nothing but candid. He laughed. Danny rolled her eyes and said we should start a toast before we lost the sky. I said I could speak. She clapped her hands and called everyone around, even people we did not know. Phones turned. I stood taller so they could frame me. I started slow, like a seasoned MC. I said we were here for joy and friendship. I said, weddings are about the courage to laugh. I said my husband knew me and loved me because I never hid. The crowd cheered at that. Someone shouted that they wanted the joke. I gave them a trimmed line, lighter, vague. There was laughter again, loud and satisfied. I felt the crowd push warm air against me. I said to myself that this was proof. I was right. Marcus should have been here to feel it. Danny leaned in and said the comments were exploding again. I nodded and raised my glass. Tomas lifted the camera and moved around me like a dance partner. He said I should laugh big for one shot. I laughed big. A group nearby started a live stream. The screen showed my face with hearts floating up the side. A stranger asked where the groom was. I said he was an engineer with an early morning. The stranger raised an eyebrow. I said he supported my brand in his own quiet way. The stranger said he looked sad in the clip. I said, people read into things. I smiled to show calm. My hands were shaking only a little. Danny said the DJ would let me take the mic if I wanted. I said I did not need a mic to hold a room. I said my voice could carry. She said then I should give a blessing to the brave. I repeated the phrase "to the brave" and took another sip. Tomas said we should move to the corner for backlighting. He placed me where the skyline cut a clean line. He said to tilt my jaw. I tilted. I watched my reflection in a window and told myself I was a star, and stars pay a price. Then I told myself I was a wife, and wives set the tone. I pushed the second thought away. Danny teased that I was trending again under a harsher tag. I asked what tag. She said it used the word bullying. I said that word was heavy and wrong. I said people hate women with mics. Danny said people love me, but also love to watch a fire. I said we would give them smoke, not flames. I raised my glass again and said that love is fun when two adults can take a joke. I waited for the cheer. It came, but there was a different edge to it, like metal in the sound. My phone buzzed. A notification banner appeared from Marcus, then vanished before I could read. I only caught the last word. Enough. I told myself it was not a command. I told myself he would cool down once he saw the likes. I held the glass higher and said we would be okay. I said a real couple survives a few harsh comments. Danny asked if I had talked to him since morning. I said he had gone quiet. She said that was not good. I said silence was a tantrum. She said maybe it was a decision. I told her not to be dramatic. By sunset, the bar was a mirror of screens. People held up phones like lit candles. A chant began at the far end. It moved like a wave. Toast, toast, toast. I saw my face on a stranger's live, my mouth open, my eyes bright and a little wild. Thomas leaned close and said the footage would be amazing for my brand. I said yes. He said he could cut a reel tonight. I said I would send him the wedding clip for context. He nodded like it was all normal. I spoke again. I said love is also teasing, and teasing is trust. I said Marcus had teased me once about my messy desk. No one had called that bullying. A few people clapped. Others just watched. A woman near the bar asked loud if I had cleared the wedding joke with Marcus first. I said we cannot clear every word in marriage. She said that was a dodge. I said it was a style. Then I laughed like this was banter and not a small stone rolling into my shoe. Danny checked her phone and said Ruth had posted a quote about kindness and public speech. I said older people post quotes when they run out of arguments. Danny laughed, but not with her whole face. I felt irritation rise like heat behind my eyes. I considered filming a new story and tagging Ruth, then told myself that would be a mistake. I told myself I was not cruel, only honest. I told myself there is a difference. I lifted the glass one last time and said a line about small things belonging to private rooms, not public microphones. I made it sound like a moral, a wink at my own sin. There were laughs, but they were thinner. Tomas put the camera down and said he got what he needed. He said he could send proofs later. I said to send them tonight. He gave me a look like he wanted more than a file transfer. I stepped back and said we would discuss brand imagery tomorrow. He shrugged and said he liked a woman with confidence. I said confidence had carried me this far. The lights brightened and the DJ announced last call. The air cooled. I wrapped my arms around myself and pretended I was not cold. I told Danny I would walk home. She offered to split a ride. I said I needed the air. She said I should text Marcus. I said he should text me first. She said I was playing a game. I said I was keeping dignity. She said dignity looks like listening sometimes. I said I would listen tomorrow. The park smelled like wet grass and sunblock. Ruth had arranged a small family photo session for Lena's school project. Ken waited near the bench with a careful smile. Marcus stood a few feet away, holding Lena's backpack and looking at the trees instead of me. I told myself I would show good wife energy and reset the narrative. I wore a soft sweater and brought snacks. I said we should use the golden light. Ruth thanked me, but the thank you felt like a layer of glass. The photographer, a calm woman with a clipboard, told us to stand close. I stepped near Marcus and touched his sleeve. He did not move away, but he did not lean in. I asked how he slept. He said he slept in the guest room. I asked if we could talk later. He said now was for photos. His voice stayed level. I wanted to poke it until it cracked. I decided to be sunny instead. Lena bounced around us and asked if the dog in the next photo set could be in our picture. Ruth said maybe later. Ken tied Lena's shoelace and asked me how work was. I said work was strong. He asked if the office had seen the clip. I said everyone had a good laugh. He looked at Marcus briefly and then said nothing. The photographer asked if we could turn our bodies toward each other for a warm composition. I turned fully. Marcus turned halfway. It looked like a picture of a couple in two different rooms. I tried a joke about the wedding to break tension. I said we had made the internet busy. Ruth's mouth pressed into a thin line. Ken stared at the pond. The photographer took a few shots and said the light was stubborn today. I asked Marcus if he had checked our shared calendar for the week. He said yes. I said I had a few evening shoots with Tomas for a corporate project. His face did not change. Ruth asked softly if Tomas was the same photographer from the gala. I said yes, and added that he was professional. No one answered. Lena pulled at my hand and asked if I had made fun of Uncle Marcus on purpose because I did not like him. The question landed with a small thud. My lungs forgot air. Ruth said we could take a break. I said Lena had a brave mind. I knelt and told Lena that teasing is sometimes how adults show love. Lena asked if that made him happy. I said not always. She said then it was not love. She let go of my hand and ran toward the slide. I stood up slowly. The world tilted. Marcus's phone lit on the bench with a small alarm buzz. On the screen, in plain text, it said, "Paper drop, 8:40 a.m." He tapped it off and put the phone face down. I saw it anyway. I told myself it meant recycling or a printer purchase. I told myself he liked clever names for tiny chores. Ruth watched me pretend not to read it, and her eyes softened, which made me angry. The photographer asked for a candid walking shot. We lined up and moved under the trees. I reached for Marcus's forearm, but he kept his hands in his pockets. I said I missed our morning runs. He said routines would change for a bit. I asked what that meant. He said he needed clarity. I said, clarity sounds like distance. He said sometimes it is. His tone kept calm. I wanted to scratch the calm off with my nails. Ken suggested we do a photo of just me and Ruth. He said it might help the album look balanced. I smiled and stood with Ruth. She held herself with a quiet spine. She said she believed I was capable of kindness. I said I was kind. She said the internet did not show it. I said the internet lies. She said people also remember. She looked toward Marcus. I felt my face heat. I said he should tell them he was fine if he wanted less noise. She said he should not have to shape the truth to protect me. I said I was not asking for lies. She said I was asking for a theater. Lena came back, panting, and asked if we could do a silly face picture. The photographer agreed. During the countdown, Lena whispered that she wanted everyone to be happy again. The shutter clicked. I forced a silly face that felt like a mask, pasted onto grief I did not respect. I told myself children are dramatic without knowing it. I told myself she would forget this by dinner. The thought felt cheap even as I had it. We moved to a bench for a final pose. The photographer asked Marcus to sit, and I sat beside him. My knee touched his. He moved his leg away an inch. I whispered that I could delete the clip if he came to dinner with my parents tonight. He said deletion now would be a performance, not repentance. I said he sounded like an instruction manual again. He said I liked manuals when they told other people what to do. I said I only wanted unity. He said unity without respect is a costume. The photographer clicked 3 times in fast bursts. The rhythm sounded like a small hammer inside my chest. Parents from nearby watched us like a slow show. I smiled wider. I asked Marcus if he could at least post a photo with me to calm the seas. He said he would not post anything right now. I said that hurt my brand. He said that was not his concern. Ruth stood and said we were done for today. She thanked the photographer and asked for an invoice. Ken collected the snacks without looking at me. As we packed, my phone vibrated again with a calendar invite from Tomas for a sunset shoot at the beach promenade. I accepted without thinking. Marcus watched my screen and nodded once, not at me but at the air. He put Lena's backpack over his shoulder and told Ruth that he would take the car to get it serviced later. His voice stayed warm for them. He turned to me and said we could discuss the apartment schedule tomorrow. I asked what schedule. He said we would talk. We walked to the parking lot. The late sun pressed gold into everything and made my shadow long and thin. I tried one last gambit. I said I had planned a surprise dinner reservation for us if he would move past the wedding moment. He said he did not want a surprise. I said he was being rigid. He said he was being careful. He put the backpack in the trunk and closed it with a soft thump. The sound felt like a period. Lena tugged my sleeve and asked if grown-ups could say sorry out loud or only in pictures. I said grown-ups could, but only when it made sense. She asked who decides the sense. I said the person who got hurt. She looked at Marcus and then at me with big eyes. She said, then he decides. I had no words for 2 seconds. Ruth thanked me for coming and said we could reschedule if needed. Her tone held no anger now, only fatigue. Ken opened the passenger door for her like a quiet oath. Marcus's phone buzzed again on the dash. The car screen lit with a notification from a message thread titled Follow Up. He swiped it away. He asked me to text him my work schedule for the week. I said he could look at the shared calendar. He said he preferred it directly from me. I said I would send it later. He nodded and looked toward the road. The balcony felt colder than the night before. The city hummed under us, and the office printer inside the spare room made a strange little cough. I leaned on the rail and waited for Marcus to step out. He stood in the doorway with his hands in his pockets and looked past me to the lights. I said we could start fresh if he stopped punishing me. He said he was not punishing. He said he was thinking. I said thinking was hiding. He said distance was necessary. I told myself his calm was a trick to make me feel guilty. I told him I needed passion, not lectures. He said he had nothing to add. The printer in the spare room spit a blank page like a tongue. I walked in and asked if something jammed. He minimized a window before I reached the desk. I said secrets in our house were not healthy. He said organization was healthy. I said I saw a spreadsheet at work with initials and dates. He said nothing. I reached for his laptop. He closed it gently, not hard. He said we would live with clarity soon. I asked if that meant separation. He did not answer, and the air felt thin. I grabbed my bag to meet Tomas for the beach shoot. I told Marcus I would be late. He asked if I had my own keys. I said yes, and I said I did not like his tone. He said tone was a mirror. I said he was being cold on purpose. He said he would handle this properly. The word properly landed like a small bell. The parking garage smelled like rubber and echo. I stood by our car and called Danny. I told her I was not doing anything wrong with Tomas. She said lines blur when camera light hits skin. I said light heals. She said everyone says that before the crash. I ended the call and told myself she had turned soft. Marcus arrived and opened the trunk to look for a toolkit. I said we should talk like adults. He said the car needed service and the conversation would not happen here. I said he used chores as shields. He said maintenance keeps things from breaking. I said we were breaking already. He looked at the garage exit and kept quiet. On the way out, he asked me to send the week's schedule. I said he could check the shared calendar. He said he preferred it directly. I said that was controlling. He said it was practical. We walked to different elevators. The sound of our steps did not match. At the beach promenade, Tomas lifted his camera and said the sky was perfect. He asked me to stand near the rail and look at the water. I said I could hold a pose and a marriage at the same time. He said I should forget everything and just feel the breeze. I told myself I was acting, not betraying. He asked if Marcus approved these shoots. I said Marcus did not own my face. A runner stopped and stared. I pretended not to see. Thomas suggested a few playful angles that would look bold online. I tilted my jaw and let the wind push my hair back. I told myself this was self-care. A group of teens whispered that I was the wedding girl. I kept my shoulders high and let Tomas keep shooting until the light went grey. Back home, two mugs sat on opposite counters like strangers who used to be friends. I put them together. He moved them apart. I said he was making a point with cups. He said cups were only cups. I said this was petty. He said the guest bed was more comfortable lately. I looked down the hall and saw the throw blanket folded sharp at the foot. The sheet was too smooth for a nap. I said he was overreacting. He said he was protecting quiet. Later, the shredder hummed behind the office door. He came out with a calm face and an empty trash bag. On the key bowl, a single USB stick sat with today's date in black marker. I touched it with one finger. He looked at my hand and then at the balcony. I said secrets again. He said records. On his phone, a contact now showed only an emoji. A CloudSync pop-up flashed on his screen, declaring that a file had uploaded successfully. He closed the laptop and placed a thin, unsealed envelope in the outbox. I asked what the envelope was for. He said mail. I said I wanted details. He said details would come. The edge of my anger softened and then sharpened again. I told him I had needs, and I said they were normal for a woman my age. He said needs were real, but cruelty was not a plan. I said I was not cruel. He said the public joke was cruelty. I said he was fragile. He said he would handle this properly. His voice stayed level, without heat, and that hurt more than shouting. The office tower lobby smelled like stone and coffee. Noon light pooled on the marble floor. I had dressed in clean lines and planned a warm smile. I told myself I would stage a sweet scene, a wife who admits small mistakes, a husband who forgives. I walked to the security desk and asked if Marcus had come down for lunch. The guard said he would be in the lobby in a minute. My heart raced the way it did before big events. I called that feeling power. The elevator bell rang, and Marcus stepped out alone. He wore a plain jacket and carried no bag. He looked rested, not angry. I raised a hand. I said we could talk somewhere quiet. He said the lobby was fine. I said we should not put on a show. He said there was no show. A man near the seating area stood and said my full name. He asked if I was that person. I said yes. He held a packet and asked me to confirm my identity again. I looked at Marcus. He watched without stepping closer. The man handed me the packet and explained that I was being served. My ears rang, but I heard the words divorce petition and temporary orders. I said this was extreme and wrong. The man kept his voice even. He pointed to a page where possession of the apartment and certain items was listed for now. He mentioned a mediation schedule invite that would hit my phone. He said I could read the rest in private. I said Marcus had ambushed me. Marcus said this was the first time I was hearing the details by design. I said he had humiliated me. He said I had started the public part, and he would keep everything lawful. He did not raise his voice. He did not insult me. He looked at the security desk and then back at me, as if to say the room mattered more than the win. People in line for coffee turned slightly to listen. A woman near the revolving door lowered her phone like she wanted to film but also wanted to be decent. I said the wedding joke was just theatre. He said the orders were not theatre. I said he was overreacting to one night. He said it had not been one night. He stood still with his hands at his sides. He looked like a person who had slept. The guard asked if we needed a room. Marcus said we were almost done. The server asked me to sign a receipt of delivery. My hand shook, but I signed my name. The paper made a soft scrape on the counter. The man thanked me and stepped away. My phone buzzed with 3 calendar invites for mediation and a short meeting at a neutral office. An email popped with a summary of temporary possession rules. The lobby printer near security spooled a confirmation sheet with my name. One line mentioned online conduct and requested removal of a specific post during the process. I said this was censorship. Marcus said it was a standard condition. The word standard made the floor tilt. I tried to reach for Marcus's sleeve. He stepped back by a small distance that felt large. I said we could talk later at home. He said I could email. I said he was heartless. He said he was done with scenes. The guard shifted his weight. The lobby kept breathing around us. Someone coughed. Outside, a bus hissed at the curb. I said the petition would make people judge me. He said people were already judging because I'd asked them to watch. I said he could have warned me in private. He said warning me had not worked before. He said this was the cleanest way. I said clean was cruel. He said clean was the only way he knew. He nodded once to the guard, then turned toward the revolving door. I stood with the packet in my hand while the door spun and let him out into the noon. The radio on the security desk crackled with a short message. The printer's confirmation page slid into its tray with my name on it. A barista called a latte for another person with a calm voice. The lobby swallowed the rest of the sound. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.